Hi there, and welcome to today's video, where we'll be exploring the topic of flowers that symbolize sadness and death. Flowers are often associated with joy and celebration, but they can also carry deeper meanings that reflect the complexities of human emotions. In this video, we'll be taking a closer look at some of the flowers that are commonly associated with grief, loss, and remembrance. We'll delve into the historical and cultural significance of these blooms, as well as their artistic and literary representations. Number 1. The Black Rose. The black rose is often associated with death and is used as a symbol of mourning and farewell. In many cultures, black roses are a way to express grief and sadness, particularly in the context of loss and death. The color black has long been associated with death and mourning, and the black rose is a natural extension of this symbolism. In addition to its association with death, the black rose can also represent the end of a relationship or a significant change. The deep, dark color of the flower can evoke feelings of sadness, loss, and finality. It can be a powerful way to express emotions during times of grief and mourning. Number 2. Chrysanthemums. In many cultures, chrysanthemums are associated with death and sadness. In Japan, for example, chrysanthemums are often used in funeral arrangements and are closely associated with the autumn season, which is traditionally a time of mourning. In Western cultures, chrysanthemums are also often used in funeral floral arrangements and are sometimes referred to as flowers of death. The association of chrysanthemums with death and sadness likely comes from their use in funerals and memorial services, as well as their bloom time in the late fall, which coincides with the end of the growing season and the approach of winter, a time often associated with death and decay. Number 3. Red Poppy. The red poppy is a flower that is often associated with death and sadness. In many cultures, it is used as a symbol of remembrance and sacrifice, particularly for those who have died in war. The tradition of wearing a red poppy to honor fallen soldiers originated with the poem, In Flanders Fields, by Canadian physician Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, which was written during World War I. In addition to its association with remembrance and sacrifice, the red poppy can also represent death and loss. The bright red color of the flower can evoke feelings of sadness and grief, particularly in the context of war or other violent conflicts. In some cultures, the red poppy is also associated with eternal sleep or a peaceful death. The red poppy has become an enduring symbol of sadness and loss, particularly in the context of war and conflict. It is often used in memorial services and funerary arrangements to express condolences and honor the dead. In some cultures, it is also used to represent hope and renewal in the face of tragedy. Number 4. Carnation flower. Carnation flower's long-lasting bloom and sweet fragrance make it a popular choice for funerary arrangements, and it is often used to express condolences and honor the dead. In some cultures, the color of the carnation can have additional meaning in the context of death and mourning. For example, white carnations are often used to represent purity and innocence, and are sometimes included in funeral arrangements to honor the deceased. Pink carnations can represent love and gratitude, and are sometimes used to express appreciation for the life of the deceased. Red carnations can represent admiration and respect, and are sometimes included in arrangements to honor fallen soldiers or public servants. Carnations are also sometimes used to express feelings of sadness and grief in non-funerary contexts. For example, they may be given as a gift to someone who is going through a difficult time, to express empathy and support. Number 5. The Aconite. Aconite, also known as monkshood, is a highly toxic plant that has been associated with death and sadness throughout history. The plant contains a number of poisonous alkaloids, which can cause cardiac and respiratory failure, paralysis, and death. In some cultures, aconite has been used as a poison for centuries, and has been associated with murder and other violent crimes. In medieval Europe, aconite was sometimes used as an ingredient in witches' brews and other dark rituals, and was thought to have the power to kill or harm people. In addition to its association with death and violence, aconite is sometimes used to represent sadness and melancholy. The deep blue-purple flowers of the plant can evoke feelings of darkness and sorrow, and have been used in literature and art to symbolize sadness and despair. Number 6. Orchids. Orchids are a flower that can have different meanings depending on the culture and context. While they are often associated with beauty, luxury, and love, they can also be used to express feelings of sadness and grief. In some cultures, orchids are used as a symbol of death and mourning. For example, in Victorian England, white orchids were sometimes used in funerary arrangements to represent the purity and innocence of the deceased. In Chinese culture, orchids are sometimes used to represent a peaceful and noble death, and are believed to symbolize the beauty of the afterlife. In addition to their association with death and mourning, orchids can also represent sadness and longing. In literature and art, orchids are sometimes used to symbolize unrequited love or the pain of separation. Number 7. The Marigolds. Marigolds are a flower that are often associated with death and sadness, particularly in Latin American cultures, where they are a common symbol of Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. In Day of the Dead celebrations, marigolds are used to decorate altars and graves, and are believed to help guide the spirits of the dead back to the world of the living. The bright orange and yellow colors of the flowers are thought to represent the sun and the vibrancy of life, while their pungent scent is believed to repel evil spirits. In addition to their use in Day of the Dead celebrations, marigolds can also represent sadness and grief more generally. The flower's vivid colors can evoke feelings of nostalgia and longing, while their association with death can serve as a reminder of the impermanence of life. Marigolds are also sometimes used in funerary arrangements and other contexts related to death and mourning. The flower's long-lasting blooms and hardy nature make them a popular choice for grave decorations and other memorial displays. Number 8. The iris flowers. Iris flowers can have a variety of meanings and associations, depending on the culture and context. While they are often associated with beauty, wisdom, and faith, they can also be used to express feelings of sadness and grief. In some cultures, the iris is associated with death and mourning. For example, in Greek mythology, the goddess Iris was the messenger of the gods, and was believed to lead the souls of the dead to the afterlife. In Victorian England, purple irises were sometimes used in funerary arrangements to represent the faith and hope of the deceased. In addition to their association with death and mourning, irises can also represent sadness and longing. The delicate beauty of the flowers, combined with their fleeting lifespan, can evoke feelings of nostalgia and melancholy. Irises are also sometimes used in funerary arrangements and other contexts related to death and mourning. The flower's elegant appearance and rich colors make them a popular choice for casket sprays, wreaths, and other memorial displays. Number 8. The pansies. Pansies are a flower that can have different meanings depending on the culture and context. While they are often associated with love, remembrance, and thoughtfulness, they can also be used to express feelings of sadness and grief. They are sometimes called Hyacinths or love and idleness. In some cultures, pansies are associated with death and mourning. For example, in Victorian England, pansies were sometimes used in funerary arrangements to symbolize the transience of life and the fleeting nature of beauty. Pansies were also believed to be able to protect the souls of the dead, and to bring comfort to the bereaved. In addition to their association with death and mourning, pansies can also represent sadness and melancholy. The flower's dripping appearance can evoke feelings of sorrow and nostalgia, while its vivid colors can be a reminder of the beauty and vibrancy of life. Number 10. Hyacinth. In the context of death and sadness, hyacinth is often associated with grief and mourning. The flower's delicate and fragrant blooms, typically in shades of purple, blue, or pink, have long been used in funeral arrangements and other expressions of sympathy. In Greek mythology, the hyacinth is linked to the story of a beautiful youth named Hyacinthus, who was accidentally killed by the god Apollo. According to the legend, as a result of his grief, Apollo transformed Hyacinthus's spilled blood into the hyacinth flower. As such, the hyacinth has become a symbol of grief and lamentation. In the Victorian era, when flowers were often used to convey complex messages, the hyacinth was used to express deep sorrow, or to convey the message, "I am sorry for your loss." This symbolism has continued to the present day, with hyacinths being a popular choice for sympathy bouquets and funeral wreaths. While the hyacinth is often associated with sadness and mourning, it is also a symbol of rebirth and renewal. This is because the hyacinth is one of the first flowers to bloom in the spring, often after a long and dark winter. As such, the hyacinth can also be seen as a reminder of the cyclical nature of life and death, and the hope that can come from new beginnings. Although all these flowers represent loss and grief, may they also serve as a reminder to cherish the memories of those who have passed, and to find solace in the beauty of life. Please subscribe to our channel and learn more about flowers and indoors plants.